Started from the bottom, kept on climbing, perfect timing, looking down from the top. I don't see no opposition from my position. I'm focused. It's the must, I complete the mission. I won't stop, I can't stop. The grind is all I know. I'm focused, I can't stop. The hustle's all I know. I'm hungry, ambitious. My heart is on go. You in the presence of greatness. That's all you need to know.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Identity Jedi Show. Appreciate you tuning back in. Spotify, YouTube, wherever you're listening or watching us on, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. So while we're thinking about it, while I'm mentioning it, go ahead and hit that like, rate, subscribe button, whatever platform you're listening to. If you're on YouTube, hit that bell notification so you can get all the updates when we drop new content. If you're on Spotify, I appreciate you. Come by the comments, drop us comments, let us know what you're thinking. Share this with somebody else. Bring them in to the family. Listen, coming up in this episode, not a lot on this one, right? Not going to do a whole lot in the open or even the close. I'm just going to get you straight to the interview because this episode has one of my all-time favorite people to interview, which is Ian Glazer. I love Ian Glazer so much because I just love having the conversations that we have. One of these days, Ian, and by the time we put this out and you're watching this or listening to this, one of these days, I'm just going to click record from the time we start talking. Like, it is so interesting and so fun when you have somebody that you can just talk to about any and everything, and that is Ian. And he is such a great storyteller. He has such deep perspectives on so many different viewpoints, especially obviously when it comes to identity. He's been in it just as long as I have. And so when we look at this baby of an industry that we came into, that it's now turning into this titan of a thing, it's so very interesting to hear his thoughts on it, to hear his takes on it from his time at Salesforce to now his new venture that he'll talk about in the interview. So an amazing interview, so many accolades to give Ian that I won't even try and name them all, but enough is enough. No more ado. Let's get you straight to the interview with Mr. Ian Glazer. All right, everybody, welcome to this interview for the Identity Jedi Show. I've got one of my favorite people in the world to talk to because we just always have a great conversation. And before I let him introduce himself, he is no stranger to this podcast. I think this may be 3 or 4. I don't know. I don't remember because anytime I get a chance to talk to Ian, it's like, yeah, let's absolutely do it. But I love telling the story. So if you've been a fan of the pod, you've heard the story a couple of times, but probably a little bit more detail than I tell. So Ian Glazer he was like my kind of like shooting star, like shining star, like in identity when I first got in. And it was because I went to, it was a Gartner conference, or was it might've still been Burden Group at the time. I can't remember, but it was down in San Diego. I remember this was in San Diego and it was Gartner. It was a Gartner conference. And Ian gave this talk, and the way he gave this talk, and the quote that he gave was about commas in like your data structures. And he goes, I love commas. I've got a binder full of them. And it was a very dry joke the way he gave it. And it was so subtle and so perfectly landed. And there's a whole context to why that was funny at the time. That is your homework. You can go research why a binder full of commas would have been a funny joke. But I love this presentation style. And I was like, okay, there are people in identity, like this is my kind. I was like, at that point, I was like, I got to get to know Ian Glazer. And over the course of the years, I did. And we've had amazing conversations. I've, watched his career from afar. I've leaned on him for advice, and it's just we've founded this great, kind of friendship in this crazy world of identity. So welcome back to the show, Mr. Ian Glazer. Thanks for coming.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. It's a bold move giving your audience homework. Like, no, this is not a one-way transmission of amusement. Like you got some work, and I expect to see you get it done before the next pod. So
exactly. Kudos. I want to see the results in the comments before the next pod. Yeah. Got to put in the work.
All right.
Oh man, so welcome, man. We've got some things lined up that we wanted to talk about, but first, just a quick check-in, man. How's the week going?
The week, it is Thursday. We're recording on Thursday later in the day here in the East for me, and I'm now working with a bunch of people that are West Coast and beyond. And so my day is on one regard, should be on the downslope, but on the other hand, just about to ramp up. So that interesting tension when,
Yeah.
you've been there, you're doing that. But it's been good. We've had a ton of rain in DC. The greater DC area has needed it for a while. So sun's come out, looks like we're going to get like a nice post-rain sort of day. And all things considered, I'm looking for the joy in the little things these days. So I'm like, yeah, all right, I'm going to take this as a win.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. Yeah, we had a little bit of rain yesterday. Today's been actually really nice, really sunny and cool, thankfully, right? I'm going to take advantage of these next probably 2 weeks before Atlanta turns into hot Atlanta, where it's just miserable every day. You walk outside, it's just like this, why do I live here? Why?
Yeah, I mean, DC, same thing. We've got a couple weeks before you're just like, oh, right, I remember this.
Yeah.
I want to live in blissful ignorance until that time. We'll see if that happens or not.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I'm loving it. I'm probably going to hopefully get through some stuff today and then get outside, enjoy some of this summertime sunshine, probably head up to the park, walk. And I may go, we've got a local park here that, yes, it's finally hit me, guys, pickleball. Like I may go to the local park and see if there's some pickleball going on. And,
I did not know that about you.
Hop in for a couple. It's, it started out as a thing that my girlfriend's friends were like, oh, they want to play. So we went out. There's like a pickleball court and bar place here in Atlanta. And it was pretty fun. And then I'm just competitive everything. I kind of enjoy doing it. But then this past RSA, I got a chance to play with Jim Routh. Man, that guy.
Wait,
and I was,
what?
whoa, this guy is.
That sounds intense.
Yeah, because he was out there like teaching and it's like, okay, no, move up here. Okay, now here's the rules and here's that. And so like we're in these matches and I was just like, oh man, this is I mean, for somebody like me who's competitive, it was great. I loved it. And I was like, dude,
Nice.
now I'm like, okay, anytime I'm anywhere with Jim and I'm like, and there's a pickleball court, I'm like, hey man, you want to go play? I was like, I'm going to be on your team though. I do not want to play against that guy. Not yet. I got to get a little bit better.
It's part about getting the intelligence on who you're playing, right? Be like, oh no, I'll be on this side.
So man, kind of hopping into it, right? So since last we've talked to the pod, there's been, some changes that have come through, right? Both of us have had some changes on that front. So I think we'll start there. Just recently with your kind of move back to, the vendor side, kind of walk us through what went into your decision of why that vendor, why now, and like what you saw that was like, yeah, this is absolutely the right move for me and something that you want to do.
Yeah, for sure. So let's see. I leave Salesforce about 2 years ago, almost to the day, and start Leave Identity, right? Out on my own, doing advisory work, trying to help people ship better stuff and solve more customer problems. Loving it. And I had picked up a couple of clients, some of whom I'd known for quite a long time in different forums, in different companies, what have you. But, you know this, like this business is about the people, right? It's about the community. And when you find the ones you really want to be around, then you find ways to make that happen. And a lot of sort of ingredients went into the mix, but there was a great opportunity for me to come on board full time with Signal, and I couldn't say no. I've known Scott and Eric, the co-founders, since way early in my Salesforce days. Back when they were at Bidium, the company that became Google Identity Cloud, and just had always stayed in touch, had always been interested in what they were up to. They had been at it at Signal for quite some time, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is cool. So they actually were one of Weave's first customers. They're actually one of my first advisory customers. Helped them along the way with a bunch of things, tried to chip in where I can, and then it was just like, oh, we could like make this a permanent thing? And for a variety of factors, none the least of which is like thinking about this year, thinking we might have some economic uncertainty. Being a solo practitioner out there might be a little challenging. And I'm like, all of this feels good, right? All of this feels good. But you never run from something, you should run to something. And to me, the thing that's exciting, whether it was me as an advisor to the company or me as an employee, has been the opportunity to make real modern IAM, right? Event time identity, the ability to respond in real time, the ability to consider context continuously. Like these things feel like the attributes of what we should be building in large enterprise. especially. And I was super keen to help make that dream come true. And the more I dig in, the more I'm like, oh, damn. Wow, there's a lot we can do with this. And more importantly, there's a lot that our customers and our prospects are doing with it. And I'm like, this is just really gratifying. Small team, fun to be with. And it felt like a good moment. The other thing is, truth be told, I've never worked in a company this small or this early before. I think when I joined Access 360 way back in the prehistoric era when identity dinosaurs ruled the land, I think we were maybe 150 people, maybe 200, but this is much smaller. And so I'm like, wow, this is neat, right? This is different. It's a different experience, a different set of skills to learn, and I'm loving it.
Awesome, man. Awesome. I can I can hear the passion about it, and I recognize that passion of being at a smaller, company startup where it is. I tell people it is like being an entrepreneur, right? And founding is like is the roller coaster of death every day, right? Like you're super excited and high, and then you're like all the way down, like, and it just goes up and down, like, and you will go all through the motions in a day. But like when you get past that aspect, right? When you're first founded it, when you get to that, I'll kind of use this as a pun here, the product market fit of a company, right? Not just the product, but of the company, right? So now you're, you're like 20, 30-ish people. You're starting to grow in that. Like it is fun because like every day, and especially to your point, if you're working with people that you know and that you like, and you're just having fun, you're just solving problems and moving things every day. Like it is that excitement of like, oh, like we talked to a prospect and they said this. It's like, oh, that's a really good idea. We think customers like this. Let's go make it happen. And then like it happens in like a week, 2 weeks, right? And you're just like,
yeah. Well, I think the thing that I'm observing is I get to be in a flow state far more in any given day than I've been in quite some time.
Right.
And I'm trying, especially post-COVID, to be a lot more aware of just how I'm spending my time and how I'm spending my attention.
Yeah.
And, like even if it manifests as little things like asking myself mid-afternoon, how did lunch taste? And you're like, oh, I don't remember it. Like I scarfed it down over my keyboard. There's like, oh yeah, there's some bits still like right in there. Like okay, like maybe tomorrow, remember what lunch tasted like.
Yeah.
And I'm doing the same thing in work too, to be like, hey, what did you really take from that exchange, that meeting, that document? And the opportunity to be in a sort of far more conscious zone, really, right? Be in flow state for work with people that you like. That feels real different versus like, I mean, I have a back-to-back day today. All right. I had those at Salesforce too. It's just a different vibe, right? And part of it is the energy you can bring to it and the world is bringing to you and your colleagues, but it's something I'm not taking for granted. And, last week was the European Identity Conference. So a bunch of our friends and colleagues were out there, and there's a lot of conversations around like, why do we do this? Like, why do we go time zones away from friends and family to give a 20-minute talk? Seems kind of ridiculous on the surface. Like, you flew how long? And how long was your talk? And what else did you do? What? That seems kind of crazy. So it's like, why do we do it? And a lot of it is that experience. Like a lot of that is like getting so engulfed and lost in a conversation with a colleague or a prospect or what have you, you forget time, right? Everything drops away and it's just about helping that person, whatever that way it manifests itself. Like being able to have those opportunities, like I'm really much more cognizant of treasuring that.
Yeah, that's really well said. And I was just having a conversation, it was about a week ago, why, that similar question, like why still do this? Like why are you still in this? And I started talking about the industry, and it's the only industry that I've known my entire career. So I'm biased in how I assume that other industries are like this, but I don't know. But like with identity, especially going to those conferences, like you just around so many people that are truly passionate about this industry. And so you have those conversations, and even though it's a 20-minute session or whatever, like it's the hours afterwards, the conversations in the hallway or at the bar or at dinner. And they're truly like thought-provoking and exciting, and to be around people who are truly passionate about the same things. And, you know, I told in this conversation, I was telling, you know, the person, I was like, you know, we're kind of lucky. Like they're not, identity is a really small industry. So you're going to run into the same people a lot. And I was like, there's not a lot of assholes. Like I haven't met like one, and I'm pretty sure they're out there. I'm positive. I was like, but I don't know if like just as an industry, we just do a really good job of like regulating them out, or like they just go with like, yeah, I don't want to be here, so I'm going to go somewhere else. I don't know what it is, but like the community is very precious to me. Right. And it's something that I'm so glad to see that it's continuing to grow and get better. And I'm interested to see, as you know, some of us, you know, in the next, call it 5-10 years, start to, you know, make our way out to go pursue other things. Right. I tell people all the time, don't get it twisted. I love identity. This is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. There's so many things that I want to do, but because it's been such a big part of my life and I love the community so much, I do want to make sure, like, kind of like what I remember our first conversation about ID Pros, like, hey, we're, you know, we're not pulling the ladder up with us as we climb in this treehouse and go, oh, yeah, we did this, and good luck, everybody. Good luck. We're making sure there's another generation that comes in, and just, you know, you don't have to take the same mistakes we do, and you just take it further, right? And I really think they will. Looking at where I think identity is primed over the next decade with, you know, technology, I think we're going to completely see a different structure to identity than you or I ever saw, which I will.
Oh my God, yeah.
So I would be so happy to see, and I will be amazed to see what happens with it, right, and where we can take it.
I agree. I think it is incumbent on us, though, that those who've been in it for a while to demonstrate the thing that I think we all know happens, just doesn't happen publicly necessarily, is that I believe that real leaders in our industry and others always exhibit a growth mindset, right? Always curious about something new. How can it be used? What's the shape of it? How does it work? How does it apply? And that it's important to know that even people who've been doing this for quite some time, especially people who've been doing it for quite some time, still exhibit those behaviors and still learn from one another. So I've been lucky enough to be in the room with some people that I consider to be absolute legends. And it's good fortune to be around these folks, and they're great people, but watching them learn from one another still after a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades of doing this, like, that's important. And I think one of the ways that I try to manifest that when I can in more public settings is demonstrate that I'm willing to learn. So ID Pro, just recently was a conversation about, well, I had asked a question about one of the OAuth profiles, which I don't fully understand the practical use cases. Like, I get it in like an academic sense, but I don't get it necessarily in like, how does it really work? And so I had asked the question, and a couple of people responded, no, there's not really a great, you know, walkthrough of it, this and that. And, you know, I fessed up in the community. I'm like, here's the deal. Like, I can read standards docs all day long. And usually when I get to the end of them, I'm like, yes, that was quite interesting. The fuck do I do with it? Right? Like, I just don't, I struggle to make the leap from a technical standard to practical application in many cases. And okay, sure. But like, I've been doing it for a while, which means I guarantee you that there's other people in the community, same thing, where they don't even read the standards because they're like, that's too daunting. And early on, yeah, absolutely is kind of a daunting thing. Then you get used to it. And then, you know, hopefully I will graduate to the level where I'll be like, oh, I see the applicability of this immediately for all standards. Like, I see it for some, not for all. But that willingness, as I'm not going to use the word leader, just as someone who's been doing it for a while, who's in a more public setting, is to demonstrate where you still are learning, right? Because to me, that is a really powerful lesson for people around. Because if you ask the question that you assume everyone else understands the answer to, turns out most people actually want the question asked because they're just not, you know, maybe comfortable doing it. And so you, in your new role in a room, could be like, hey, wait, guys, I don't get it. And that's not going to diminish your standing one iota. But what it is going to do is reinforce and give people confidence to be like, oh, wait a minute, if he doesn't get it, it's okay for me not to get it. Like,
Right.
it's okay to go on a learning journey together.
Right.
That's important for us who've been doing this for a while.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. But it's always something that I've always strived to, part of that thing of always be in rooms where you're not the smartest person in the room, right? Like I constantly want to be in rooms where, like, well, I don't get that, and I can ask questions, and I can learn new things, but being more conscious of, hey, when I am in those rooms, or I'm not in those rooms, and I may be the subject matter expert, to for something to come up and go, yeah, I really don't get that. I can you explain that more? And it's something sometimes that gets lost on me, because I just sometimes assume that, like, you don't know, people will ask, but you forget that sometimes in these settings, right, that people aren't comfortable, asking. And to your point, to see some of us that have done it for a longer time ask those questions, and which is one of the things I really do love about, like, ID Pro and the Slack channel. And that's why I tell so many people, it's like you will get so much just from being in that Slack channel. Like, even if you don't want to ask what, just go in the channel and watch the threads. Like, you're going to see, like, there's so many good discussions in there. Right. And there's so many of these people that you've probably read their white paper or watched their presentation. They're in there having these conversations and asking these questions. And so I love to see so much of the dialogue that happens in Slack channels. And I want to see more of it post out of the Slack channel as well. Right. Yeah. And interactions that we create, which it seems to be happening. Right. I'm getting really jealous of all the identifiers that are popping up. So now I'm
yeah. Just got to do the one in Berlin. That was awesome. Right. But like these, we can fall back on a lot of skills individually. We can fall back collectively on the power of our community. And that, I would like to believe, is something unique to identity. Very well might not be, but at least I want to treasure it, right? And I think that it's going to be more important than ever, because I think as an industry, we're about to go through generational change. The way I've been talking about it is, I think we're just waking up from like a 2-decade SOX hangover to be like, oh my God, what did we do last weekend? Oh, geez, let's never do that again. We haven't shook off a lot of the practices from the Enron days. Mm-mm. And that was important back then, but something new is needed now. Yeah. And that transition, that phase shift for us is not going to be easy. And so, and our models, our mental models, our technology models will fail in the process. But the thing we can fall back on is the strength of the community, and the ability to share more of these things together is going to help us get through whatever that transition looks like. And what do we start doing in the future? Whether it's help defining it, whether it's help saying, look, I don't want to do these things. I don't think it's good for us to do these things, these practices. Like, there's a lot of power there, but we're going to need it more than ever, because I think what comes is going to be very different than what is.
Yeah. It's almost a little scary when I look at how quickly and how much this industry is going to change based on what we have access to now. Like, literally down to, and I give this a lot of thought. I'm working on this kind of longer, blog post about it, because I really, like, I've got these thoughts, and I've kind of said it. I was like, look, I think in the next decade, identity is going to drastically change. Like, I think there's a lot of stuff that we think about and how we approach it, like, it's not going to be necessary. We're going to completely move from this administrative focused industry, from tools and practices that we said, let's teach you how to administer it. Basically, better spreadsheet. That's what we've been doing. Let's show you how to effectively make a better spreadsheet. And we're going to skip past all that, because we're going to be able to administer that so much better. And now it's like, cool, we've done all that. Now, what do you do with this? How do you actually make this useful, right? So I've reviewed and monitored and set up all the access and enforced your policies that you wanted. Now, what does that mean? So here's this identity, and it's got this risk factors, and it's done this, and it's got these. It's like, what does this mean to you as a business? Now, how do I see it? How do I see this identity interact with different access? And how do I understand what that access means? And so I see this much more proactive mode of identity teams and identity programs. And I feel like it's really it's going to seem like overnight. Like, I think the tech's building and building and building. And I think we're just going to go off a cliff, and we're just going to wake up and be like, yeah, we don't need to do any of this anymore. And you're just like, whoa, what do I do?
Yeah. And I think there's a very, very much a building sense of like, we can't IAM any harder, right? I can't be more vigorous or earnest in my use of single sign-on and IGA and all. Like, that's not going to get us different outcomes. Like, we can't drill this same well deeper and expect something different to happen right now. The scary part is like, okay, well, what's the shape of next? And so the talk I gave at EIC, the thing I've been talking about for a while is like, okay, what does modern IAM look like? Like, what are basic principles and components, and like, what can we fall back on? Because market names don't really work anymore, and the landscape into which we're being deployed is really different, and the needs put upon us are very different. What are building blocks to work with? Because like, I feel like everything is getting sort of reset and reshook, and sort of like, okay, well, how do we start, right? So like, that's why I've been falling back to like policy orchestration, data execution is like those 4 elements, and then looking at what we have in a fabric and saying, oh, okay, I get where I'm good, where I'm not, where I've got deficiencies, where I've got needs, where I've got some strengths. Cool. Now I know where I stand. Now I know what I need to augment. But you know, other people have got other models that works for them. That's great. But like, you're right. Like, it's happening at a speed where we are very much the frogs in the pot, and that water is coming up, and it's been doing so for a while. And we haven't, being honest, we haven't really noticed. Oftentimes because we have compliance mandates that don't move as fast as the world around us.
Exactly.
That's one reason. Some cases, the business has left us behind because we're simply not responsive enough for their needs. And there's a variety of other causes, but all of a sudden we're going to wake up in a boiling pot. And I don't actually want that to sound negative. I actually think it's more like we're going to wake up and suddenly have a whole new set of tools and a whole new set of reach, and the ability to do so faster than we've ever had before, and be like, oh my gosh, it's like actually waking up inside of Voltron, and you're like, oh my God, I've got a huge robot around me and I could do all these things with it. What the hell do I do with it? Right? Like, what's the first thing I do? You're like, I don't know. Actually. And I think it's going to be more like that, where suddenly like I have at least the ability to have 10x my reach and my speed and my usefulness. But we're going to be in this awkward teenage years where we haven't grown into our bodies, right? So it's like just kind of gangly and loose as we figure out like what the new normal is. We figure out how to pilot this thing.
Yeah. And I'll add to that. I think part of it is going to be, I think the first realization, right? When we realize that the water is boiling is when an identity program leader, because we've struggled with being able to report on this and show business value for this forever, because we just never talked that, right? And so when the first cracks start to come through, where it's like, okay, well, wait a minute, we just onboarded like 100 applications in 30 days, and once we did that, we were able to see how much access they have, and we did provision like a bunch of unused accounts, and there's value right there. Like, oh, like in the last 60 days, we saved the company X hundreds of thousands of dollars on like just SaaS accounts. And this is stuff that we can kind of generally do now. It's just not talked about. But like, to your point, like, I think where it's going to move so fast, it's like, well, yes, these things are moving fast and I'm able to report on them now. Like, well, what else can I look at? And what else can I do? Right. Like,
yeah, the thing that I think is maybe one of the ways we get there, right, to that conversation that more parts of the business can resonate with is business resiliency. Like, I'm become a real fan of this notion of, in a lot of ways, security as a domain is about business resiliency. Make sure the widgets still keep coming off the line, that we can still serve electrons to the right people at the right time. Like, make sure that still happens. Because in a lot of ways, security and identity controls are about ensuring the continuous flow of the awesome from the enterprise. And there's a lot of things that make that true. We don't talk about that. Like, we don't talk about governing privileged access to, say, customer data or privilege or production access as a business resiliency function. But guess what? That's what that is. Because if that access is abused, you now have a break in business resiliency. Like, something has gone wrong. Either it is a very classic outage, or you have a data loss situation, which means from a brand perspective, your little trust chart goes blip, where all of a sudden, like, oh, newspaper article about lost every single record of every single human on the planet. Now, to be fair, there's a little bit of fatigue of that because it's like, oh, not another one this week. But
Right.
the regulators will notice, these others will notice, and you will definitely have a break in resiliency when you get that close inspection to what the hell's going on. So
Right.
to me, I think one of, not the only, but one of the ways that we get to this conversation state of like where we can talk about things and the other parts of the organization go, oh, I get it. Resiliency is one of those things. And to me, it's a very exciting one of those things.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never looked at it from that standpoint, but as you were talking through it, I'm like, that makes a ton of sense. And it leads to the same notion of part of what we're going to have to do as an industry is how do we now talk to these things, right? Because these are verbs we've never used before. Right?
Not our language, not our tongue.
Enablement, resiliency, like we don't know this language, we don't know this world as identity, but I really feel like we're gonna wake up and find ourselves in that world, and it's that recurrent nightmare that most of us has, where you wake up and it's like 8 a.m. and you get the test and you're like, wait, there's a test today? I didn't. What?
Here's why I have hope, which is identity practitioners tend. I'm gonna go on a limb. I'm gonna make a hypothesis here that identity practitioners know more people in enterprise, generally speaking, than they realize in their organizations. Why? Because identity is ubiquitous. It touches everything, every system, every customer journey. So because of that, we've had to, one way or another, build those networks, build those business connections, and learn over time the native tongue of the people we're working with.
Right.
And that's kind of something we do, and we don't even think about that we do it. Business resiliency is just a new language, a new group of people in some regards, or really manifests through some of our peers that we've already been dealing with. It's just new things they want to talk about, right? It's a topic du jour, but it's one that we can learn because we've already learned how to speak these other languages, maybe not perfectly, and maybe sometimes we still falter. The difference has been a mind shift of we have often been on the back foot in those conversations. We are there to hook up an app because there's a compliance need. We are there to hook up these things because there's a discontinuous customer journey, right? Like, versus saying like, I'm coming to you on my front foot, which is saying like, I can help you improve this. I can help remove friction here. It's the same kinds of things we could have talked about in the past, but have struggled to do so. I think we have a bit of an opportunity here to actually do it this time.
Yeah.
And just one other point is that the other thing is it's not just our pot that's temperature is rising. Like, I think society as a whole is in a similar situation, knowledge workers as a whole. Yeah. And I think all of us are going to be in this very uncomfortable sort of like, what the hell just happened kind of moment. And that means there's an opportunity for actually building tight relationships. There's actually ability here because we're all kind of in the same boat to be like, whoa, this looks real different than the organization I joined in 2000, and different technology and different circumstances, different markets. We got to learn this together. And that actually is something we can be a part of and not be scared of.
And I'm gonna walk through a scenario on that point real quick, and I do want us to get to OIDs, but to that instance, right? I have been the last 2.5 years just going down the rabbit hole of AI, right? And watching this thing move at a speed that I have never seen in my life. I've never seen technology move this fast. Like it is both exciting to the nerd in me, and then to the human in me, and knowing how, like, as humans we deal with change, I'm like, ooh, I'm a little scared for what this is going to look like. Because, so walk through the scenario, right? So let's just say, just today with technology right now, to where it exists right now, the scale of a not only business but product, because we'll stay in tech, right? That we could say you, I, and one other person could go make, right? You're going to see like these very 3 to 5, like I'll steal from AWS, 2 pizza teams, right? Build not only like production level products, but scale like probably 10, 20 million ARR businesses in half the time that we've seen these things grow, right? Because the ability to, and I go back to, I'm going to do this right now because I keep doing this quote and I don't know the guy's name.
Is it attributed to Mark Twain, or are you just going to make up something completely random, like a century after the person was alive?
But it was a CEO of Microsoft, and he had this. All right, my computer's going off for a solid, but it was a CEO of Microsoft. This is probably about I don't know, call it 4 or 5 months ago, or like earlier this year. And he made this comment about how AI is going to disrupt like software engineering and how we just build products as a whole. Because basically, to shorten it up, is AI becomes the business logic layer. And so everything that we've done in software applications, right? All the stuff that we created to handle the functions and routines and all this stuff to say, I take this data, I make this function, I call this, I call this, I call this. He goes, that's all replaced. And it's just AI, a user interface, and data. And that's it. And with that, these functions or the functionality of your application really just becomes, prompts and things that you can lead the AI to go and do. And most of it now, as it becomes agentic, is just like, here's the task for you. You're the customer service task in this data, and go learn and figure this part out. And so now it's an orchestration of these things. And so where I'm going is that when you think about that, it's like, all right, so then what does a business look like? Do I need software developers, or do I need kind of like this software or this application orchestrator, data, and AI, and I can kind of go scale and start doing certain things? So you look at marketing, you look at sales, you look at outreach, like all these other areas where this thing allows you to scale, one person at probably 10x what they could do before. And so, and rapidly, because we're already seeing it, and it's in little other areas where like direct to consumer, where most enterprise people don't pay attention to, where people are creating products, launching them out, and like literally, there was 2 kids who were research assistants, and they listened to Sam Altman saying like, you just need AI and curiosity, and they went and built an entire application and company like overnight. And so that's only going to continue to keep happening. And so that is what I look at when I see that coming in, the change that's going to make, and how organizations are structured, how things that we've kind of normally said, I was like, well, you got to do this first and this first. I was like, I don't think that's necessarily going to be true anymore.
Yeah. Well, look, you work for a product company. I work for a product company.
Yeah.
When I started in college, I learned machine language first.
Yep.
Then C++ was probably next, because we fancy and we didn't do C. So you learn machine, then you learn compiled language, then you learn interpretive language. The product requirement document is now, each of those is a layer of abstraction on top of what is computing, like actual like electrons moving around.
Right.
The product requirement document is now the next abstraction layer on top of all of that. And I don't think we're quite there yet, but I can see it. Like I can definitely see the edges of this.
Yeah.
And it leads to a whole bunch of things, which is, well, if all of this stuff is trained on essentially predicting what comes next based on historic pattern, right? Whether it's corpus of text, image, what have you, then we are trying to drive forward at very high speeds. You're looking in the rearview mirror because everything is generated off of what came before, which means genuine creativity. That's something I'm not worried about being replaced. Where I get concerned is if we zoom way out, not to get too dark, is that society as a whole is not prepared for two very specific things that will happen in the next 15 years. We are not prepared for the level of unemployment that AI will likely cause in many, many sectors. And we are not prepared for having to depopulate and repopulate major cities because of climate change. And both of those things are going to happen. And so we have some, you started this by giving your podcast listeners a bunch of homework. We as a society have a bunch of to-dos that are coming up. Like we need to learn how to do these things and get smart with these things and get comfortable with these things. And then you zoom back in and you'd be like, okay, cool. So now I've got bots governing all of my access. What do I tell the auditors? Like, how do I bring them along in this journey? Like, so I think part of your point about being the founder and a roller coaster, like I'm on that with like round, like reality is like, oh my God, it's going to solve everything or cause everything to go collapsing down. Like this micro vacillation, like or oscillation between like huge scale problems and like really pragmatic, like, well, if we do get this, what the heck do I tell my customers, auditors about the way this is all managing and like regulatory bodies? Like there's this weird, like total fishtailing of where my brain is going all over the road and like all these problems. Oh man. The news is that come back to growth mindset, right?
Yeah.
If this is like, wow, to your point, the rapidity of change in your own organizations, if you're listening in your own organizations where you've got productivity suite, they all have some form of AI available to you.
Yep.
Some of those do bear resemblance to like Clippy in the days of yore, and some are more useful. Just take note of how long it takes before it becomes normative in your organization to turn on AI-assisted note-taking in your meetings for whatever productivity suite. It's really not important. I think that number will be less than a quarter. Like a quarter from now. So let's say as we enter the early fall, I would be surprised if people don't have a normative behavior that for most meetings, they turn on AI-assisted transcription and note-taking and to-do assignment. And then you realize like, oh, that's just a little thing. That's just a little help. It's actually genuinely helpful. And it's also, you can validate it was accurate. And so it gives you a comfort factor in that. Mm-hmm. We will see this in more places. And I think it's important to be conscious of when did we go from the hell is this? I'm never going to use this to like, oh, that's kind of interesting to like, no, if you take that away, I can't do my job.
Right. How will I ever get it done? What
How will I ever survive? If I took away your commas, you'd be screwed. Well, that means if you were using a spreadsheet, you'd be not, like you can't do that. It's going to look real different of whatever that thing is next.
Yeah. The ability to visualize and correlate data, right? Mm-hmm. I think that is the most powerful thing with this. And I think that's the addictive nature of this stuff, is because we're finally able to see and use all this data that's always been there, but we never could like, Fireflies is one of the note-taking apps. And I'm pretty sure all the rest of them have this, right? But the cool thing about it is after it does a transcription and it does its analysis, right? It jumps into like tone, sentiment, words per minute, who talk more, who talk less, actions that were taken, this like, so you get this complete analysis of a meeting like that, right?
Well, so I'm going to use this as a segue to a topic that we both want to talk about. The ability to visualize, to synthesize data, super powerful. We can't do that in identity at scale, right? We can't. I believe we are missing out on real opportunities at a democratized level to do this with our identity data because there's no standard information model for them. What is a user over here isn't a user over there. They look really different. And what that means is if I was to actually build an identity data lake, if I was to bring together data throughout my identity fabric and bring it one place, sort of normalizing it and rationalizing it for the purposes of many, many things. But one of them will be putting some agents on top of this, building some models to look for what's different, what's interesting. How can I compare those models if I have all of this data marshaling to do and they're all in silos? It's just not feasible. We haven't worked on data schemas for data at rest and identity in over 20 years. The last time we did it was LDAP, and that served us very well. I'm sure some people listening still have LDAP servers that they fondly keep feeding coal and other biomass to keep running because they're powerful, they're important. But like we have to bring data management into identity. Yeah. And we need to do this by bringing data managers and people that are professionals in this doing that. And one of the first things I think we're going to need to do is bring that expertise in so that we can actually start talking common languages so that we can layer on value add applications. How's that for a segue to OIDs?
Couldn't have done it better myself. I'm just, it's beautiful. Yeah. This part, like, I remember when you first kind of posted about it and I looked at it, I was like, okay, yeah. And then I immediately, as what I usually tend to do, started just kind of in my head building out the architecture on top of it. Because it was like this, and then I was like, if we have this, and there's a standard data set of what identity data is, and we can run general analysis on anything, now we can truly compare like for like across environments, right? Well, now if I take that, if I have comparison models that I can compare, I was like, now, because when I looked at SaaS, right, and the true power of SaaS, I was like, one of the things that we're missing is like, okay, the whole point of SaaS was that I get more efficient with each customer that I get. And that's
as the producer of the service. Yeah.
As a producer of the service. Yes. And part of it is that because I do this, I'll just call it, I don't know the right shared data model set or whatever, but I have you all run these tenants, like I can see attribution across all of them. And because I can see all of them, I can start to see patterns and go, oh, wait a minute. If there 10 of my 100 customers are running this way, I can see the results on the back end of how much data source you're using, how much processing, and so now what happens is when I see that and I make adjustments, that adjustment becomes 10x more powerful because I just helped by looking at 10 customers, I helped all 100, right? Yeah. And then so forth and so on. It just gets bigger and bigger. That scale just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So I really got excited when I looked at that because I kind of said, this could be the key that unlocks a lot of the things that we want to do with identity and finally start, like, I looked at it as like, we can finally start solving the problem of like, one thing that I've seen all the time, right? The whole, multiple persona problem, right? That we see a lot in like healthcare and education, stuff like that or whatever. Okay. And each time you run into a healthcare or education client, they've got all these different things and we still don't really have a good approach to it because, well, this person's kind of did this customer kind of did this.
A multi-affiliation problem. I am also a student, but I'm also a TA. So I'm an employee.
So if we have a standard model of how we represent this, right? And then we can look across those models and compare and go, okay, well, listen, out of most people that have these multiple affiliations, like here's kind of the model that's most common and looks like, and like, here's how we could secure that model. It's like, we could take this and like design it, give it to your point, a data manager, and process goes, well, if you manage to put this data like this, here's the most efficient, here's how you do the most secure, here's what this is, boom. Now we can take that model back and go, okay, well, if I can apply it to this model, here's what it looks like. Oh, okay, I can take that model and go deploy it within my organization because now I know. And thank you for doing that because I found a way to kind of extract it without the hardest part with all of this is like, well, I can't give you all my sensitive data. Like nobody wants to share because like I can't tell you like what accounts I have and all this stuff or whatever. I was like, but if you're using a standard model, I can just design the model and then you can go implement against the model.
And so flip your example around of as a service provider, you get better when you can see across multiple customers doing the same thing against a common information model. Now flip that around. You're in enterprise and you can start to say, look, I can look across all of the systems that are material to my business. Let's just start there. And I can actually link together how users and entitlements all are collected and assigned. And then I can start to say, well, then what I can model is so many other things that is both independent of admin time, runtime, event time. Now I can take that, the ultimate abstraction layer, I can take my product requirement document and actually let AI build the things that I don't have in my identity fabric today. The itches I can't scratch, I can let something do. Why? Because we have a common information model that then AI can sit on top of, my classic engineering services can sit on top of, and my third-party products can sit on top of. So I think it's high time we do this, because it becomes, in a lot of ways, the way we allow identity service providers, so identity technology vendors, to specialize in what they do. The capabilities about affecting change to access, and not sort of like buy into the ongoing, and they're okay at data. Like mileage may vary with there at best.
Right.
And even if they were great at it, my own engineering teams, my own AI models are kind of locked out of the story unless I do a lot of data marshaling and a lot of work to get it into something standard, whether it's just my own internal standard or an industry one that we can work on top of. Why don't we lean into this a little bit and just start somewhere? Now, the biggest criticism of OIDS, which stands for Open IAM Data Schema, subject to change, whatever. Well, it's a boil the ocean. You got to model everything. Like,
right.
Yes. Okay. Great is the enemy of good. Thank you for pointing it out. Like, I think we can start somewhere really small and start building an information model, and that would allow people to manifest it in their own data tiers how they want to, with the advice of data management professionals, and then bring in data scientists to actually start doing the interesting stuff on top of it. We got to start somewhere. Right now, that conversation is hanging out in ID Pro in a Slack channel called creatively Open IAM Data Schema. And we're looking for more folks to come join the conversation. I don't know when this is going to air, but if it airs before Identiverse, which I'm not sure it will, but if it does, we're probably going to have a get together. Stay tuned, because there's enough people like, I can poke at parts of this problem because I can get direct value out of it. Join the fun. Yeah. You know what? It might not go anywhere, but I think it's worth running to ground the concepts and seeing if some part of it is salvageable that we can actually start to do industry-wide.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's absolutely a conversation worth having to see what comes out of this. Like, no, listen, I'll be very honest. I've already come up with like 2 different businesses that I could build off of this. So I'm just kind of like,
I know. Right. It's like, once you see it, you can't unsee it. You're like, right. And then oh, damn.
Yeah. So
see, the future can be awesome. It doesn't have to be scary.
It doesn't have to be scary. It's you know, and when it is, like, come on, like that makes it fun. You got to have a little,
So that's the entrepreneur in you to be like, look, this roller coaster ride is not fun unless we have dramatic changes in elevation. And so, like, that's scary, but you know what? That's why it's fun too.
Where is the 10 loops of death? What is going on? Man, Ian, as always, this is awesome, man. We could talk for hours. We've done it before.
Yeah. We have. But so, no, I appreciate it, because, you know, one thing is, every time I walk away from our conversations is a different and deeper appreciation for the relationships we form throughout this industry, in our careers as practitioners, as humans. And I think as a society, we're a little fast to write those off. And that's a shame. And so having an opportunity like this, it's something I really actively treasure. So thank you, sir.
Awesome, man. I enjoyed as well. Appreciate you having it on. So we're going to wrap up there. I will try to get this out before Identiverse, but I do doubt it will happen.
I'm sure you have nothing else going on in your daily life that would require you to work like feverishly for the next 2 weeks. No, what could possibly be that?
Yeah, nothing at all. But if it does come out after Identiverse, listen, that invitation is still open. Feel free to reach out to me here, identityjedi@gmail.com. Ian, if you got a email that they can use to reach out to you.
Glazer at idpro.org.
There you go.
You can reach me, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Don't forget to like, rate, and subscribe on whatever platform you listen to this on YouTube if you're watching, or even Spotify if you're watching. Drop it in the comments. You've been assigned homework, people. I want to see some answers. I want to see some answers in there. We'll see you guys on the next show. Thanks. I mean, if I do say so myself, another great interview. Appreciate Ian Glazer for stopping by the pod, chilling out with us, having a conversation. He is welcome back anytime. And listen, like I said, that's it, folks. I'm going to keep this one real short. That's a wrap. You know what to do. Make sure you like, rate, subscribe, whatever platform you listen to this on. Spotify, we want those numbers. Make sure you're subscribing and following on Spotify. If you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do. Click that bell notification. Until next time, folks, you guys know what it is. Be good to each other. Be kind to each other. Love each other. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.
The grind is all I know. I'm focused, I can't stop. The hustle's all I know. I'm hungry, ambitious. My heart is on go. You in the presence of greatness. That's all you need to know.